Hello, Fox. This is Sumit K. Um, in this video, I'm going to work on a use case wherein we want to move a database replication from on-prem SQL Server, which is running on Windows-based SQL Server, and we want to move a replication or move a data of transaction logs and full backups to the Cloud SQL for SQL Server, which is a managed service offering from a Google Cloud. So basically, what is happening here? We actually want to enhance the business continuity for your SQL on-prem server to Google Cloud SQL for SQL Server, right? So, database professionals managing the SQL servers needs to design their system to be very resilient against the data loss in the event of disaster uh, when it happens, right? So this basically offers, mix of full backup, differential backup, or transactional backups logs basically, and the frequency of transaction logs backup can be tuned to fit your recovery point of objective, right? So your basically RPO is nothing. The recovery point of objective is nothing. It's basically how far you can go to get your data to be restored, right? Lesser the number of RPO means you are restoring the latest backup, right? So one common model a customer use for further reducing the data loss is replicating these backups to another environment, or or maybe so you have a standby copy of your primary SQL Server database in another service. um, so basically what happened that you take a backup of all your logs and put it into Google Cloud or some other environment, or maybe if you are working fully on the on-prem, then you may have multiple data centers, so you take a copy of backups and put it into the another data center. But here we are going to deal with the cloud, right? So in this blog we or in this video we will explore how to easily set up a DR architecture using the Cloud SQL for both on premises and the or it can also be set with the other cloud like the AWS, and we will see how to how you can use the regular backup and subsequent import into the Cloud SQL from the SQL Server, right? So this is a SQL Server which is running in the on-prem, right? All the logs, all the data is stored here, but we want to move some data, right? We want to move the backup of this database to the Cloud SQL Server. So what you basically do, you first time whenever you do this, or whenever whenever you're setting up this Cloud SQL for SQL Server DR architecture, you start by restoring a full backup of your database to the designated Cloud SQL Server. That could be your DR instance, and then you upload subsequently your transaction log backups to the cloud storage. So the full backup, the first time you take a full backup and restore it here, and all the subsequent backup will be done asynchronously using the storage transfer service, or maybe any other service that you can use. Maybe it can be done using the gsutil command, and you can transfer all the subsequent backups to your Cloud SQL Server using the cloud function. So what happened that um, what happened that basically when you upload any file or logs from the SQL Server to the Google Cloud Storage, a cloud function is triggered using the event arc trigger, and this cloud function that it basically orchestrate the import operation, which is going to be executed on your Cloud SQL Server. So whatever this log file, which is in the form of .back or full backup or transactional backup, whatever backup, it is stored in .back file extension. And then cloud function, what happened that it automatically triggers the cloud functional. We will put the logic in the cloud function using the Python application code, and then based on the data, cloud function basically get the backup file and restore into the Cloud SQL Server. So it every time a new file reaches here or landing here, the Cloud function invokes, and it restore the data in your database, right? And optionally, it also creates a copy of your data in a cloud storage, and it deletes the original file from this source cloud storage, right? So you don't have a duplicate files in all the way, because already you are restoring a database here and you have a copy of your database here, right? So so basically, the function this particular function checks the progress of the restores operations, and if the restore operation succeed, it basically delete the files from the source code, right? And optionally making a copy of a second storage bucket. Okay, so this part, for this demo, I don't have a on-prem any SQL Server running. So to mimic this architecture, I'm manually putting a sample database backup, the database file, dot back file here, and we can continue with our demo. But in a real world, you use a database migration service for the SQL Server that automate this process for restoring a full and transactional log backups to Cloud SQL for SQL Server. Um, so basically, its primary focus is to perform streamlined SQL Server's database migration. So you will use this storage transfer service in a production environment, in a real world, because storage transfer service is basically can be scheduled on cron job basis, or there are multiple options also, and it takes the data from the on-prem, and every 1 hour or every 2 hour, whatever cron you want to set, and it upload the data in the cloud source. So this is the ideal way, but for our demo we will do this manually. Okay, so before we do this, um, the first thing we need to do is first we need to set up a SQL Server here, right? So I hope you understand the flow. The flow is very simple, right? um, there is a data coming here, the cloud function triggers it restore the data, it does everything, and restore the database here and the optional file here. So we will see some of the IAM roles and permissions as a part of this demo. So Cloud SQL Server, if I go to my console, I already created a SQL Server, um, which is in the stop mode. So I'm going to start it. The name of my SQL Server is MySQL Server, and let me just let me just put this information here. This is my SQL instance, and this is a service account for my SQL Server, right? So I just on it. Takes some time. Meanwhile, just see the bucket. Let me check the bucket here. So I will be using this bucket demo 9087. This is the bucket name. So I'll use this bucket. So let me put here. I'll use this bucket here. So basically this bucket is nothing. This is the bucket if I mimic here. Um, 1 second. So this is my bucket name. Okay. And this is my SQL instance, which I'm putting it here. Okay. So let's just wait. Takes few minutes. So meanwhile, what we will do, uh, the first part is we have a SQL Server is basically is coming up. We have already have a storage with this name, and the third step is we have to use this service account, this particular service account which is attached to your SQL Server instance. We need to give some roles. some permission, so that my SQL server, if I show you in this design, my SQL server basically has some permissions, to talk to the bucket. So how you're gonna do? You go to the IAM, and here just look for this service account. The service account is created as a part of this MySQL Server deployment. So you have to give this role storage object viewer. But for as a safer side, I just used admin. I'm going to delete this one. So Cloud SQL admin is fine. I'm sorry. I have to do some cloud storage admin. Sorry, storage admin, I believe. Yeah, so put it storage admin, so it has a full access. Okay. Alternatively, you just put the storage viewer, but I think viewer sometime throws an error. So let's just put with the storage admin. Save it. Okay. So another thing that for your cloud function, right, you need to have some service account. So let's say you have a service account here. I'm putting it here, service account. So you're gonna create a service account for your cloud function, and and then you assign some roles and permissions, right? So that because the cloud function is having is basically orchestrating a lot of things, so that's why it's need all these permissions, right? So what you're gonna do, you first create the service account. Just give me a second. So you first create a service account. So if I show you, I have already created a service account for my cloud function, which is this one, cloud function restore log, with this name. So I'm just copying it here, or maybe just copying it this part, and I'm putting it here. This is my service account, right? And it's going to be attached to my cloud function. If you look at here, I already have given some of the rules, right? And the roles are storage object admins, and alternately I have given the owner access, and there are some customized role as well. So what you can do, basically, when you make sure that it has all this role except, and in addition to this, it also has some custom roles. So I already created a customized role. um, 1 second. Yeah, so this is the customized role, right? So here you can see that you can, there are some of the permissions. So if I put it here, so basically these are some of the custom role permissions which you need to add to your service account. Okay. So now go to the IAM. What I am going to do, I'm going to uh, let me just come here and let me remove this owner, because I don't need this. Have to follow the principle of least privilege, so I don't need owner. It needs admin access, object admin access, this importer role, cloud SQL importer role, right? And these are the uh, you know these are the permission that cloud function will be interacting with your cloud SQL server. And to interact with the cloud SQL server, it needs to get the instance name, to import the database, or to import the database to the cloud SQL server. And it also need to write uh, you know the same database file into the cloud storage for optional purpose. So that's why it need to get the bucket, it needs to create it the bucket, and then it also needs to delete it right from here, from this cloud storage, the backup file, right? And so for this, all these permissions are needed, and I have customized it, right? Okay, so let's save it. Now we have Cloud SQL ready. We have this cloud storage ready. And for this one, we are going to use the same cloud storage, just mimic that. This is the same cloud storage, or less optionally we can create it. So don't worry about that. I have a I have a I have a second bucket here. So let me see that. Yeah, so maybe I can use this bucket. I think I have some data here, but anyways, let's leave it. So I'll make this data. This is the bucket name, right? This is a different bucket. Okay, now we have to deploy this cloud function, right? So to deploy this cloud function, um, you go to the cloud function here, and create a cloud function. You put here some function name. So maybe I'll put um, restore function, and I'm putting this into the US Central one. The trigger type, as per the architecture, the trigger has to this has to be triggered from the cloud storage, because the database, the transaction log files, all these files are going to be stored, uploaded into the cloud storage. And then put your bucket name. So this is my bucket name. This is my source bucket name, by the way. And just try or retry on failure. Come here. Um, so here you need to just change the service account from the one that we have already created, right? This cloud function SQL restore. In your case, you might create this from the scratch, like so. I'll create it. I already created it. So this is the service account. Make sure that you select the service account, because this service account has all the necessary rules and permissions, right? This is very important, which is basically I'll show you in the code. Here you need to put some variables here. So I tell you what are those variables. Process bucket name and max fetch time seconds. This is what I have defined in my code. The code itself also given by the Google Cloud. So basically you use this use fixed file format name. Basically what happens that I have a database back file, which you need to follow the fixed format. Basically, I tell you this is a file. Let me just show you in here. So the file name which is getting stored, sorry, 1 second. So this is the file name which is going to be stored here, right? This is the file name which is already downloaded in my machine. So this is the file name. So it says you have to follow this format. The first of all, the name of the your SQL Server instance ID, and then the database name, which I am taking it Adventures Works. And the Adventure Works, basically I have taken this file from the Microsoft sample database. And then what format, it's full differential, right? And then the recovery dot back. So that's why here it needs to be set true, because you need to make sure your files are in this format, right? And the process bucket name. So process bucket name is nothing. This is the process bucket name, where it after the cloud function has completed the process, the required files or the database is also optionally is stored here. So you go back and copy this particular bucket name and put it here. Okay, and then you have a max functional timeout. I'll gonna make it 30. Oh, okay. And then you go to build. Okay, so I'll go with the default build service account, and then connections. And here nothing needs to set. So I think we all good. Go to next. Let me check one more time. Runtime. Okay, just make it something 500 maybe, right? Let maybe 600 seconds. All good. This is my service account. Click on next. And then here you just select the Python 3.12. And here there is a code. I give you the code as given by the Google Cloud. So you come here, and this is the GitHub repo, right? If you go here, this is basically the repository where you can do some demo on SQL database, right? A lot of use cases are there. So I'm going to restore SQL Server transaction logs. So, and go to the function, and here you have a main.py. So just copy this file and come here, and I'm going to explain this code in a while. And the entry point, just make it here. Function, the requirement also, just go back and click on the requirement file. Just copy this file, copy the content of this file, and just put it here. Okay. Now, let me explain the code. It's pretty easy, right? This code is designed to run your Google Cloud function to be triggered by the changes in the Google Cloud storage bucket. So it basically processes the backup files from the cloud storage, and it imports them into the Cloud SQL instance. So the first thing that here you're importing all this framework, Google authentication, and the Google authentication transport request, Google API client libraries, loggings, OS, all these modules that you needed. And then there is a first function that get environment variable, which is basically to control the behavior um, of the you know of the variable that you have already set, right? So in the get environment variable, the purpose of this function is to retrieve and validate the environment variable which we have just set in our previous settings, wherein it process the bucket name, right? We have set it, right? Some this values, right? Use fixed file format and the process bucket name and all this variable we are putting it here. So it taking the variable values from the function itself outside of this code, right? And then we have so this is a logic, right? If you put this way, then this way, then this will process. If you do not have this file name format, it will come with some metadata, right? So you be basically sending your database with some metadata. So in that case, second logic will be executed. So again, this is a second function which extract info from the file name. And basically the purpose is basically extract the cloud SQL instance name, the database name, the backup type, and the recovery information from the file name, right? So it will take, because our file format is in that way, right? Like it has a full backup or differential backup or whatever backup, right? It can be. Okay, so yeah, the second thing is basically um, let's go to read this function, extract um, basically extract info from the file metadata. So if you are not following the the format which I have given here, if your file is are not in this format, I mean the naming of your file, right? Just note that. Then this logic is created, right? If you have some metadata or something, then it's basically extract the information from the file's metadata. It basically the parameters which are there is the storage client, the bucket name, and the blob name, right? And then you have a another function which is called get import context. It's basically takes source bucket name. I mean, it basically the purpose of this is to create the context for the Cloud SQL import operation, right? I mean, in this architecture, right, this cloud function is basically importing the database into the Cloud SQL Server. So it basically prepare it, and what it's gonna what the parameter is it's having here. It basically has the bucket name, source bucket name, and the object name, the database name, backup type, no, and this no recovery information, and then it returns some value um, containing the import context, right? All this thing, right? This is the values. And then it has a deleted process blow function, which is nothing. It basically delete a process file from the source bucket. Like I told you, right? Once the database file or transaction log file has been restored here, it will go to the source, I mean, original storage file, the source storage bucket, and delete the files, right? So this is what it does. Okay. And then it has a handler error. So handler error is basically handle the error during the import operation. So if this code generate any errors, it has any bugs or any the code is not correct, it will be definitely throw some errors. So this handler is basically going to capture it, and there are parameters which are using like the error response, and then the source bucket name, object name, loggers, and all these things. And then have the process copy blob, the copy blob to process bucket. So the name itself says, right, basically it is copying the process file into the different bucket. This is a different bucket, right? This is what it does. So this is what the all about the code. I just took it from the Google Cloud. It's pretty easy. If you go through it one by one, the code is pretty easy. You can easily understand. Oh, okay. What happened? Okay, I took it from here. Main dot file. Let's copy it again. Maybe it's not matching the entry point. Function restore log. Oh, just give me a second. It's there then. Okay, now it's not throwing. I don't know. Sometimes it says a weird error of entry point, but it's already there. The function basically the entry point. So I think we are all set, and hopefully let's deploy it. Okay, so go back. Cannot be more than, and also taking this name log, maybe function log. Okay, and this timeout maybe it's more than that. Maybe 500 seconds is fine. So I'm gonna make sure this all automatically reverted to the default service account. So make sure when you go to when you check click on previous, you make sure that your custom service account is there and all this information, right? And go to next. Let me see if the other things are not changed. I hopefully not changed. Yes. Oh, this file has changed, so this is the problem, right? So let's copy it again and put it here, and go to requirement. So copy it, come here, and change the entry point. So I'm going to make it this one. Oh, Okay, everything is set. I think it's all set. Yeah. So let's deploy it and see if it works. Okay, sorry. So my recording was stopped. So I just recorded it again. So yeah, so right now, if you see that function is still deploying, so it may take some time, right? So just come to here architecture. So we have storage part is done, we have cloud function is done, and we have SQL Server is done, and we have this cloud storage bucket. So now we are deploying this cloud function. This is still in progress. So my function name was, I just put my name, restore function underscore log. This is my function name. That was my service account. So I put it this one along with these permissions. Hopefully it should run fine. Meanwhile, if you go to a SQL Server, if you go to database, um, so this was my previous test. So I'm going to delete this. I don't need this right now. Okay. So also the SQL Server also gives you a SQL Management Studio. Basically, this is the inbuilt feature of SQL Server. So you don't need to install a SQL Server Management Studio to manage your database, right? So from here you can also connect. But if you also have Management Studio on your machine, on your local machine, that you can grab this public IP and connect to your SQL Server database, and you can manage your database from your local machine, right? But for this demo, I will use Cloud SQL Studio. Okay. So right now its function is still in progress. So yeah, it's deployed, I guess. Yeah. So if you go to the detail, these are the details in US Central and all those things. This is a custom service account. And if you see the trigger point is your bucket, right? So this is the events that this cloud function receive from this bucket when you put something into this bucket. And this is a service account basically for the event that is a by default service account. And this detail and this service account is basically for the cloud function to talk to the other services using the customized permissions, right? And this is the logs. If you see the logs, you will see some logs here, right? Creation and all this thing. So let's do one thing. Go to the bucket and go to your this bucket, right? The source bucket, and put the files, put the backup files, right? So this is my backup file. Let's just put it here. If you see this file extension, as I told you, this is the file extension. This is the exact file name, MySQL Server, and then this is my MySQL Server is nothing. It's MySQL instance. Then the database name, what is the type of this backup, and all this thing. So you can see here. This is exactly what we followed. The moment you put any file here, you will see that your cloud function gets triggered. So just refresh it. I see you'll see some logs now. If you go to trigger, or maybe here, so see it's doing something, some operations. So let's quickly go to my SQL Server and see whether it creating the database or not. So go to the database and see its adventure works, the database name. It automatically created because we have defined the format of our file. If you look at here, we have already defined in the file format that this is what you know this is what the SQL instance and this is what the database is going to be. If there is no database, it will create the database, right? So um, this is the database. If you just go to the overview here and look at this, um, so still running, I believe. I think it's done. Yeah. So you see that the import from this GS bucket SQL Server recovery backup has been successful, right? So if you look at the Cloud Studio and you want to see this database, right? So you can check that your database has been restored here, right? Your database has been restored. So this is a way that you can, you know, perform the database backup migration using a stream. And in case of any business disaster or any disaster happens in on-prem, then you have a standby server running in Google Cloud, which is having the latest copy of your data. So you can restore your, you can ask your application to divert the traffic to this particular standby server, which becomes the master server or primary server, and it will continue to serve the traffic, continue to handle the read and writes. So you may have some loss of data depending on what frequent interval you are taking the backup, 1 hour, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like. So based on that, you may lose some 5 minutes of data, 10 minutes of data, but still you have a lot of data, 99.9% of data, so you can continue to uh, serve the business, right? So one more thing I forgot to tell you, right? In this architecture, right, I told you that this cloud function is not just restore the data here, but it also go back to the original source storage. It will delete the file from here, and it also optionally copy the same data, the back file here. So let me show you here in the bucket. So this was the original the source bucket. So if you go here, you see that your file has been deleted. The database file, the transaction log file has been deleted. And if you go to this, so this targeted bucket, here you'll find the copy of your database backup file, right? So this is the this file is basically copied here in case if something goes wrong to this SQL database restoration, then it can restore it from this, from here, right? Or maybe if you want to have some maybe some ETL or something other things, you can do some pipeline from here. So yeah, so that's it for now. I If you have any questions or anything, you can ask me in the comment section. You can feel free to connect me. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching.